Good morning, League fans. Welcome to our first breakfast show of the week. My name is Steve Mascord, and no special guests today, or intriguing audio or anything like that. We're just going to go over what's happened at the weekend and what's happening in the game worldwide at the moment. And there's enough to talk about, isn't there? Particularly at a certain joint venture club in Sydney. So we're going to talk about the statement put out by the club in the last few hours, and we're going to talk about the response from the RLPA and from the journalists involved, and we're going to talk about Lachlan Galvin and all sorts of stuff like that. Plus we'll go through the results from the weekend in the Championship over here in England and in Super League, of course. But as is customary on this show, we're going to start with birthdays, and there's a big one, a really big one today. Happy 86th birthday to Alex Murphy, one of the greatest English and British players ever. He's 86 today, and wow, what a great player he was. I didn't have the honour of seeing him play, but all the the video footage and the contemporary accounts paint a picture of a once a century talent. So happy birthday, Alex. Hope you're having a good day. Elsewhere, John Peake, who was on my footy cards as a kid, former Canterbury and South Sydney player. He's 73 today. Terri Butler, who played for Queensland, North Sydney. We lost him in 2016. He was born in 1958. Just having a look at a few others. Stu Galbraith, the former Parramatta half from New Zealand, played against Great Britain on the 92 tour. I remember very well. 2 years older than me, 58 today. Happy birthday, Stu. John Mark Garcia, one of the great French players in the English competition, played for Sheffield, may have even played in the Paris Saint-Germain, first ever Super League game, I think. He is 54 today. Happy birthday, John Mark. Matt Orford, the pocket rocket from Melbourne, Northern Eagles, Manly, Bradford, Canberra, 47 today. Happy birthday to little Matt. Joel Monahan, who let the dogs out. He is 43 today. Good fella, Joel Monahan. Good career and knew how to... didn't take himself too seriously when he hit a bit of well-publicised trouble. So, okay, after the break, we'll come back and we might have a little bit of a talk about this breaking news, this intrigue at West Tigers. I have to swear here that I have no input at all into the music choices on this station, none at all. So that was quite fitting, poignant, timely, because when you hear these statements I'm about to read, you might be led to believe that someone's lying. Someone's got those lying eyes out. This statement from the West Tigers in the last few hours. The club can confirm that the reports published last night, 21st of April 2025 by the Sydney Morning Herald naming 2 West Tigers players were not correct. Neither player has ever made a complaint to the club or the RLPA. This was confirmed by both the players and the RLPA this morning. The story is simply not true. We thought it was important to clarify this as the report has caused unnecessary stress and hurt to the players and their families. The journalist involved, Michael Chammas, then on Twitter, posted the following grab from the Sydney Morning Herald website. An earlier edition of this story stated that Brandon Tumeth and Justin Matumua had made complaints to the RLPA about the West Tigers. This story was amended on April 22 to reflect the fact that Tumeth's manager made the complaint to the RLPA, while the RLPA independently raised concerns directly with the Tigers in relation to the club's treatment of Matumua. Now, Michael's also quoted or posted a statement from Clinton Newton of the RLPA. We can confirm that we've had a conversation with the West Tigers asking for an explanation on concerns involving some current players and recently departed players. We will continue to work with the club on these matters and anything else that brought our attention that requires our involvement. As we have stated before, our job is to ensure the employment terms of the players' contracts and what was secured in the CBA are complied with, and that clubs foster an environment for all players that prioritises a safe workplace. So it appears that this original report, which was changed, said that it was too broad in its wording. That it said the two players had complained, where it was what had happened was a bit more nuanced than that. One of the players' agents complained, and the RLPA made an inquiry. So there's been a mistake made there. The general impact of the story to the reader, I'd imagine, is identical. Two players. There are concerns over two players at West Tigers regarding their workplace conditions. When I was a cadet at Australian Associated Press at the end of the 80s, I was told, don't write denial stories. Like it's too easy to pick up the paper and then ring the person and they just say, no, that's wrong. But this has got, obviously, there's a bit more, I use the word nuanced again. There's a bit more to this than just it's a denial story. And one thing that I've noticed happen, I'm not going to use any names here because, I haven't had the opportunity to check this, but what has happened is that someone, a fan, has sent a text to Isaac Moses, who is Lachlan Galvin's, and that's all this started about Lachlan Galvin. If you're starting from scratch here, Lachlan Galvin is a young halfback at West Tigers who has said he's leaving, and he was dropped at the weekend. He's been reinstated this weekend, and this has led to constant focus on West Tigers, and the reaction of the other players towards Lachlan Galvin has led to allegations from some quarters of bullying. So, anyway, don't write denial stories, but this is more than a denial story. And what has happened is that one fan has texted Isaac Moses, I have very damaging information that could derail West Tigers' season. And then the fan has received a text from a journalist. So this has been a sort of honey trap's the wrong term, but it's been a trap. A booby trap, probably meant to say there's a honey trap, but to expose the relationship between Isaac Moses and the journalist involved. So that's just an indication of the kind of depth of enmity and intrigue and Machiavellian manoeuvrings that are around rugby league in Australia and particularly in Sydney. I don't have a point or a conclusion to this. It hasn't reached its conclusion. Just making a few observations, but it's certainly a mess, and obviously there is enmity between Isaac Moses and West Tigers, and it's not going to end today with these latest developments. It's something that's going to run and run. So the people who work at West Tigers are certainly earning their money. So after this, we'll come back and we'll just have a chat about what happened at the weekend across the rugby league universe. So what I was going to say at the end of the first song was that I found myself on New Zealand radio just 11 hours ago talking about KISS, but that moment's past now, hasn't it? And plus Bad Company's probably more appropriate anyway with all this drama, you're in bad company. You got the wrong manager or you're at the wrong club or something like that. Anyway, let's go through the results of the NRL at the weekend because this is our first show since the Easter long weekend. And those results were, and we either had live radio coverage or score updates from every one of these games. So that was fantastic to have the continuous call on board. And they mentioned us in the call a number of times. Mark Levy and Mark Riddell, they mentioned Istanbul, and I just happened to have that on a graphic, Istanbul. It was a running joke for them yesterday. Okay. With the winning team first, rather than the home team first, Aussie style. St George Illawarra 20, Manly 18, Canterbury 32, South Sydney 0, Dolphins 42, Melbourne 22, Warriors 20, Brisbane 18, Penrith 40, Sydney Roosters 12, Canberra 30, Gold Coast 20, Cronulla 34, Newcastle 14, and in a bit of a thriller, and the team that we're talking about on today's show, Parramatta 38 beating West Tigers 22. Now it is should really get into the habit here on when we do a Tuesday show. I'm going to record a best of show for days when I'm on the road, like this coming Thursday. I'll be making my way up to Warrington to call that match between Warrington and St Helens, and the next day. Well, next day's a bad example because it's Anzac Day and there'll be a match on this time anyway. But I'm going to record a best-of show to play out when I'm on the road. But the teams have been named for the coming round 8. And Selwyn Cobbo is a fullback for the Broncos, who take on Canterbury. Reece Walsh is out for a while now, injury-wise. And the big news from the Sydney Roosters camp, Sydney Roosters taking on St George Illawarra in the big Anzac Day match on Friday, is that Dominic Young has been dropped. Spencer Lenny's in the starting side with Nat Butcher's sideline with a knee injury. Angus Crichton, he comes into the second row. And Sione Finau is a replacement for the Dragons for Fegai, who hurt himself last weekend. Chance Nickel Klogstad is back from concussion. He replaces Tane Tuapiki on the wing. Tuapiki had a decent game, I thought, the weekend. And Tamari Martin's back to 18th man. Newcastle, they're playing Newcastle, by the way, the Warriors. And Dylan Lucas is back for the Newcastle Knights. I don't want to go through every single injury. But Nick Meaney's back into the Melbourne side. They play South Sydney. Lewis Dodd didn't get much of a chance. That's two English players dropped for this weekend. Lewis Dodd is also back to... He's been dropped, but he didn't really get much of a run last weekend, did he? So Latrell Mitchell, that's a big one. just a bit. Latrell Mitchell is at fullback. So Jai Gray goes back to the bench from fullback. Lewis Dodd off the bench, and Latrell Mitchell moves to fullback with Jaden Sullivan, Buddy Sullivan coming in at halfback. That'd be interesting. That'd be good to watch. But countering the English quotient for North Queensland, John Bateman is back. And also Jeremiah Nanai is also back for North Queensland, who take on Gold Coast on Saturday. And David Fafita, bad hamstring injury at the weekend, but he is nevertheless in the Gold Coast side. New hooker for Penrith Panthers to replace Mitch Kenny, who's been suspended. Luke Summerton is the new hooker, and Isaac Tungo is also back in the side as well after a week of just being dropped. That's for Penrith, who are taking on Manly. Big news at Manly, Tom Trbojevic, he returns. So that's but his brother Jake is out with concussion. Francis Molo would play his first game for the Dolphins this weekend. They travel to Canberra on Sunday. He was at the Dragons, we know. As I already mentioned, Lachlan Galvin is back for West Tigers with Adam Dewey in the centres. Toby Rudolph is out injured. That is the Sunday game, West Tigers and Cronulla. So there you go. You're up to date with all the team news. Teams Tuesday. After this, we'll have a chat about the weekend in Super League. Okay, let's go through some Super League results from the weekend. Thursday night, bit of a thriller. Felt sorry for Cass. 13-12, Wakefield over Cass. The two derbies on Friday, similar scorelines. 28-14, Hull KR over Hull FC, and 24-14, Wigan over St Helens. On the other Friday game was a convincing 28-6 win for Leeds over Huddersfield. Rivals round continued. with Warrington trying to get out of jail at the end, but just failing. On Saturday, they were beaten 18-14 by Lee, I thought Catalans made unnecessarily hard work of their 38-10 win over Salford. It was never in doubt, the result, but very similar to the Challenge Cup game. It should have been a much bigger scoreline, just based on, cattle on the field and, the way the game went at various stages. But now, it's to me, it's frustrating. I know it's just a function of the clubs running the show and the league having no power, but to have a game on Thursday night, and you could say it's down to a TV contract, it wasn't on Sky. It was a red button game, the Wakefield Cascade. You got a game on Thursday night at Easter, and then you don't have anything on Sunday or Monday. When the NRL take over the running of the competition in this part of the world, that won't be happening anymore. We used to have 2 rounds, as you know, over Easter, but clearly the short turnaround is undesirable from the clubs. Of course it is, but someone needs to tell them to suck it up. And basically, it's like the clubs run the show, so, we don't want a short turnaround, so we just won't play any games at all on Sunday or Monday. It's ridiculous. And it's just reflective of a club-centric approach to the sport in this part of the world. Quite a big story which came out of a podcast, Sky Sports The Bench podcast, was Mikey Lewis saying that he wants to go to the NRL, and my colleague Tony Adams has already suggested he's in the sights of West Tigers. So the quotes from Mikey Lewis off this podcast are, "My dream has always been to go over to the other side, Australia. It's been my dream since I was a young kid to go and play on the other side of the world, and when the time comes, it will come. I'm not putting any pressure on it. I love playing for this club. It's given me so much on the field and so much off it as well. I don't see myself playing for any other club in Super League." So there you go. Mikey Lewis off to Oz, and I think he'd do a great job there. Anyone who's seen him play would, I think, agree with me. So, if you're listening to this show live, good morning, League fans. My name's Steve Mascord. Thank you for listening. Then you're probably not aware that it's also a podcast, and the podcast can be found by searching WLF Kicks on your favourite podcast provider. And if you are listening on the podcast, you may not be aware that this is a live show on a radio station. It's at rugbyleague.com, 24 hours a day, rugby league with classic rock. And don't worry, I don't program the music. So if I do like any songs that are played, it's just a coincidence. You don't have to be run screaming from my dubious musical taste. And if you are listening on the podcast, you can support the podcast by going to patreon.com/Whiteline Fever. Patreon.com/Whiteline Fever. And when I have my act together, which will start today, the subscribers will get to hear the podcast first before I post it on Apple and all that sort of stuff. So that you'll get to hear the podcast on demand first if you're a Patreon supporter. Now, the great thing about doing the show live is we can bring you breaking news. Breaking news. I should have a jingle ready for that. Maybe I will by next year. There has been a statement from a solicitor called Simon Berry, reported in the Sydney Morning Herald by Adrian Prezenko and Billy Elder, two great journalists and colleagues of mine. And this is what Simon Berry has to say. "I am instructed to confirm in response to media inquiries that Hilliard and Berry solicitors act for Mr. Lachlan Galvin. The firm has retained Mr. Arthur Moses, SC, and Mr. Dylan Mahendra on behalf of Mr. Galvin. We have been in communication with both the CEO of West Tigers and now the solicitors acting for West Tigers concerning a range of issues which will not be disclosed outside any formal process, other than to note that we have sought an urgent mediation between the parties to resolve the issues in a constructive manner." And this has been couched in terms of Lachlan Galvin. If you just repeating, has been recalled to play for West Tigers this weekend. And he is definitely leaving at the end of next year. A lot of people think he's going to leave earlier than that. So there you go. A bit of breaking news in the West Tigers / Lachlan Galvin saga. Hello. It's almost on the hour. We've only got 5 minutes left in the show. I want to thank you for joining us here on Good Morning League Fans. Let me tell you what is coming up on our station. Starting on Thursday evening, I will be in Warrington for Warrington versus St Helens from the Halliwell Jones Stadium. And then the next morning, we're going to have Mark Levy, Daryl Broman and Mark Riddell from the big Sydney Roosters St George Illawarra Dragons game. And then straight after that, Melbourne versus the Rabbitohs. That will be Jamie Soward, Mark Geyer, Josh Morris. And then on Friday night, we've got Oldham playing, and Mick Gledhill will be calling that game. This is all UK times. Apologies if it's not breakfast. This is not a breakfast show for you. It's a drive show for you. Just make allowances. But Oldham versus Bradford on Friday night. Mick Gledhill will be bringing us all the action from that. Then the next afternoon, Mick Gledhill will be back with Featherston and Toulouse. That's Saturday afternoon. And on Saturday evening, the great Jason Costigan will be bringing you all the action from the clash between Catalans and Wakey. I'm looking at 3 different lists here. This is why I'm a little bit hesitant. I'm sort of pausing awkwardly. Apologies for that. But on Saturday morning, more importantly, we've got North Queensland and Gold Coast. And then that will be followed by Penrith and Manly. And then on Sunday morning, we'll be having a full commentary of West Tigers and Cronulla, which is very relevant given what we've discussed here. And then we'll finish up with Mick Gledhill doing Halifax and the mighty London Broncos. That's an incredible amount of games. It's definitely double figures. I haven't even added up how many that is. It could be a record for us. So thank you very much for joining us on Good Morning League Fans. It's been my pleasure to spend the last 58 minutes with you. And all being well, I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks very much, everybody.